Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode. If you are watching this on YouTube, you will see that I am in a sweatshirt over a sweatshirt. It has been cold. I'm recording this at the beginning of March, but that's just what's going on right now. And so I hope that wherever you are listening to, that maybe your weather is a little bit warmer. I'm ready for the warm weather to come back. Today, what we're going to talk about is being your own boss. And I want to take this from the perspective of choosing to lead yourself. Now, some of you who are out there listening are your own boss. You have your own clinic, you have your own company, you call the shots. Some of you out there are not your own boss, right? You're employed, you work for other people, you work for a big system. You have a boss, or maybe several bosses, maybe too many bosses. But what I want to invite everyone who is listening out there is to become your own boss. And we're going to talk about what that means. When I'm thinking about this, I'm really thinking about the mindset of choosing to be in control of yourself professionally, choosing to really call the shots. And that might seem a little odd because, again, I know that some of you are employed. Many of you are employed. I myself was employed for a long time. And I know the mentality of thinking that you have no decision-making capacity, no autonomy, get no choice. I get that feeling. But what I want to share with you is that you may be surprised to learn that our colleagues who own their own clinics sometimes also do not feel like the boss, even though they are literally the owner of the clinic. Side note, I am just now remembering that I also secretly used to own a clinic and I never felt like the boss there, which, okay, I'm calling myself out on that one. That's a different story for a different time. Just to say that there are many, many physicians who are in practice who have their own clinics, who are in control of their own schedule or work as independent contractors, do locums work, and still may not feel like they are their boss. I want to argue that this is a mindset. This is a way of thinking. And again, I want to invite everybody to tune in and take part of this thought process. What do I mean by becoming your own boss? I mean stepping fully into this idea that you get to make the decisions. And again, if you're employed or if you own your own place, but you feel like you never get to make any decisions, stick with me. If you own your own clinic, you will know very well that, yes, you have decisions to make, but you do not have complete control over everything that happens, right? You have to have successful marketing, right, to bring patients in. You might have to deal with memberships if you are direct care, or you may be in the insurance model and be, fighting with insurance companies and trying to get better reimbursement rates. You have vendors. You may have a landlord. You may own the building and have tenants. There are a number of things that are outside of you that are things that need decisions. So we like to think that if we are in charge of ourselves, if we own our own place, if we run our own practice, that we get to make 100% of the decisions, but sometimes our decisions are in reaction to other forces. So I want to be very clear on that. What I want you to invite you to do in relationship to decisions is to really see the power that you have. And again, whether you're employed or whether you run your own show, to really see yourself as the one who gets to make considered decisions. Information comes to you and requires some kind of a choice or a decision. It doesn't always present itself as a choice. but it always is, right? Let's give the example where someone has asked for a change in their FTE. And so this is an employed person has asked for, let's say, a reduction in their FTE. And their clinic leadership comes back and says, no, you can't do that. Now, we may not want to make the choice that we will leave over this decision, right? We may not want to decide that we're going to stay in this mindset, right? That they have complete control, but we do actually have control. You could counter that no and say, okay, well, this no longer works for me and I'm going to leave. Now, I'm not suggesting that that is the decision that you should make. I'm not suggesting that every time we ask for something and don't receive it, that our response should be to leave, but I want you to see that it is an option. I want you to see that you are not actually stuck. Now, someone's going to argue with me. Someone's sitting there thinking about all these terrible non-compete clauses, right? There are consequences, and some of them are enforceable and some of them are not. And I don't want to suggest that there are things without consequences here, but there are also consequences when we feel like we have no choice, when we feel like we have no agency. And so in inviting you to be your own boss, I want you to make considered decisions. So I want you to receive information from other people to identify that there is a decision there, right? If you get information from someone and again, it's something that you are not liking, right? You have a choice. If you are in a situation where you're having to decide, are we going to move locations? Do I have enough space? Do I need to hire more people? We want to make a considered choice. But the same is true for us. If we are acting as our own boss and we are looking out for the well-being of ourselves as the employee, what kind of a decision do we want to make if we run into rigidity and bureaucracy and we're being asked to do something that we don't want to do or we don't feel is right? Decide for yourself that you have choice and agency. Be your own boss in that respect. The next way that I'd like to invite you to kind of be the boss in the situation is really to, with eyes wide open, look and see what are the resources and what are the liabilities of your current situation, right? If we were running some kind of a business, we would see that we have, let's say, some kind of a manufacturing or a retail, right? We have some stock, we have some products that are on the shelves that we have paid for. We have rent and we have employees and we have things like that. We also have our capacity to sell things that may be very high or maybe very low, right? We have resources and liabilities, and we need to really understand what those are, right? In terms of your resources, what is it that you have that is special? That might include your skills. That might include your ability to connect with patients. That might include some number. Maybe you're an excellent leader, right? And you're really good at being involved with committee work, right? That is a resource. What are your liabilities? That can be something that we can think about differently. Maybe we won't want to call it a liability, but what is true of you that we need to take into consideration when we're making decisions, right? I talk to a lot of physicians out there who consider themselves to be introverted, to consider themselves to be highly empathic. And these physicians are usually highly sought after, which means they get overbooked, they get overpaneled, right? People tell them, I never want to see any doctor but you. And that is a burden, especially to someone who is on that more introverted and empathic side. And although they're very good with people, it takes a lot out of them in order to be able to kind of be with and serve other people. Now, we can always talk about ways to better manage that resource, right? That resource of being somebody who is very good with other people. But let's also see the quote unquote liability side of that person may need to set different boundaries. That person may have needs that they can't really work a full FTE because that's too many people. That's too many connections. It drains their batteries too much, right? Let's also think about what are the things that are going on in you as the employee's home life, right? Do you have caregiving responsibilities? Do you have other people, whether it's children or aging parents or pets or a spouse or someone who's needing extra care, right? At different times in your life, as those needs go up and down, right? That is part of your liabilities, right? The parent of young children has different time constraints than someone who doesn't have those responsibilities. And those time constraints are going to change over time, right? But we have to take that into consideration. We have to put that in part of the picture. And so I want us to think about, what are the special skills that I bring? What are my strengths? And what are the things that I need in order to serve? How do I not run out of juice every day, right? How do I not run so low on my batteries? What do I need to do differently in order to make that happen? And again, there are many different ways to approach that, but we need to think about, where am I at in terms of my energy when I'm making these decisions, right? And be really clear. What do I need? What am I not getting right now? How will I choose to get it based on where I am and what I need? Another way I want to invite you to think about yourself as being the boss is to really look at the big picture. When we are feeling overwhelmed, when we are feeling burned out, it's very easy for us to get very narrowed in, right? The world feels like it has closed in, and we may only have the ability to see a very short distance in the future. I used to have this idea in burnout, and I still think it's a good analogy, that I felt like I was in a dark tunnel, and I could see that there was light at the far end of the tunnel, but it was very, very far away. And it felt like there was a mountain on top of this tunnel weighing me down, keeping things in darkness. When we are feeling that way and we don't have the ability to look very far into the future, we need to be able to see the big picture. We need to be able to see that this way of doing things is not sustainable. We have gone through periods of time, medical school, residency, maybe fellowship, the time when we might be parents to very young children or multiple very young children, right? There are periods in our life that have been more finite. Maybe children is not a good analogy there, but where we've gone through sort of discrete periods that were very hard, very tough. And we knew that they would come to an end. But once we get out into the attending world, once we are in a longer term job, that finite end is retirement or leaving a particular job, right? It is much farther away. So when we are feeling very burned out and we are sitting in this place where we can only see a short distance away, we will feel hopeless, right? We need to be able to see that big picture in the way that a boss or a successful leader can see the big picture of what's going on for the corporation, right? They need to be able to know what's going on in their industry, what's going on in the economy, right? What's going on in their workforce. They need to be able to look at that big picture, and we do too. So if we are feeling very burned out, right? If we are feeling like we're in this tunnel, we need to find a way to see that this is not sustainable and that something is going to need to change, right? Something is going to need to help us to get out of this tunnel. And that might look like different things to different people, but let's not discount the importance of being able to see the big picture of your career, of your life. If we stay in the tunnel and we're only looking short distances into the future, we aren't getting our needs met. We aren't planning things that are months away, like vacations or time off for conferences or things like that. We aren't planning any arc to our career. We aren't looking for things that we might want to develop more. We aren't thinking about, how do I want to show up? How do I want to do this work? Do I need to do this work differently? Would I like to do this work differently? Is there something else outside of medicine or within medicine, but different from what I'm doing right now, right? We can't see that when we're just head down and sort of in our employee mode working away. We need to be able to expand that lens. It's really important that if you need help during that time, that you get help. I think many of us being, let's say, people who like to learn, having probably a hearty dose of, I should be able to do this myself, right? Having taken in that message that we can't inconvenience other people, that we are the ones who give help, that we're not the ones who get help, right? There's any number of sort of flavors of this messaging. But if we don't get the help that we need, if we can't change things, then we will not make progress. We will not get what we want, right? There is no one who's going to come and pull us out of this tunnel. So again, that help could look different ways. And I don't want to suggest that people can't do these things on their own, because they can, but it takes doing things radically different. If you are feeling burned out and overwhelmed, the way out of that is that things have to change. And maybe not necessarily the things that you think. Things might have to change of how you take care of yourself. Things might have to change of you saying no to other people, being willing to disappoint other people, of you setting boundaries and limits, right? Things have to change in order to get better. And no one can do that for you. Now, people can help you. People can guide you. You may need other interventions. You may need treatment for depression or anxiety. You may need medications. You may need therapy. You may need a coach, right? You may need some supports in place. No one does that entirely for you, but you also don't have to do it alone. And if trying to do it on your own, if you've been shooting yourself to death and it's not working, it's time to change tactics. We need to be able to see the big picture. And again, if we're feeling really burned out, we can't do that, right? We feel like our work is meaningless. We feel cynical. We just don't think we can keep going. And it doesn't really matter here what we're thinking about doing. I'm not trying to suggest that we need to be able to plan out 30 years of a career. But if when someone points out to us that we might work for an additional 30 years and that makes us want to cry or scream, something has to change. We need to be able to look at that big picture in order to feel better, right? In order to make clear decisions, in order to be in charge of our lives. I would like to invite you to be your own boss, to consider that you have more choices available to you than you may be considering. That even if you're in a place where you get told no frequently, you have choice, right? And when you can reclaim your ability to make choices, when you can choose to start doing things differently, you can have a different experience, even if you are in the same place. For those of you who own your own businesses, are you feeling like the boss? Are you feeling like you're the one in charge? Or are you feeling like someday somebody's going to catch on that you don't know what you're doing? Because I hear that a lot. And I want to empathize. I want to empathize with anyone who's out there who owns their own clinic and feels like they don't know what they're doing, right? We did not get a business education. We can learn, we can grow, we can hire help, we can do all kinds of things, but I want you to start identifying as well as the boss. Let's not hide out. Let's step into that power, step into that energy. Decide that you will make decisions in service of yourself. Yes, they will also be in service of the people that you serve, right? Your patients. They will also be in service of anybody who works for you, but you are also on the table and what you need and want matter. I'm going to end it there. But again, I really want you to sit with this idea of being your own boss. We have been stuck in a very hierarchical system at various points during our training. And let's just put aside any debate about whether that should or shouldn't be the case, because that's too big for today. They want you to own autonomy of yourself. You get to decide what your values are. You get to really understand what your strengths are. You get to look at the environment that you work in, whether it's yours or someone else's, and really see very clearly what's available to you with, again, clear eyes. No hoping it's just going to get better and relying on that as a strategy. That kind of hope is not a strategy, right? We need agency to change things. Be your own boss. Take good care of yourself as an employee. Think about your big picture. Think about what you need, what you want, and how to get it. My friends, thank you as always for tuning in. I'm wrapping this up on this chilly night. I hope you have a wonderful week. Please reach out with your questions. I'd love to hear from you. Take care. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.